This is Harsh Rules. I'm Ben Harsh, and I just wanted to say thanks to everybody. I noticed that we passed over to 3,000 subscribers. That's fantastic. Thank you all for hanging with me for all this time. Putting out board game tutorials as much as I can. And I thought we'd take a little time. 3,000 subscribers. Enough of you feel like this is worthwhile that you want to hang around. So I'll talk a little bit about some questions I get asked often, and how what I think about some things, and you'll get to know me a little better. So let's get started with that. So first question: why do you make these videos? Well, for my day job, I work at a large company with a lot of executives, and that company will go unnamed. But one of my jobs is to take complex subjects and break them down for easy consumption. So let's say that we have a new piece of legislation coming out, right? And that's going to have an impact on the industry we work in. And executives just don't have time to study all this material and figure out what's important and what they need to pay attention to. That's what I do. I take all of this material, I boil off all the fat, and then I tenderize the actual meat and make it easy and quick to digest. I do that and about 30,000 other things. I mean, this is corporate America, and if you work there, you know what I'm talking about. Okay? So I do all this, right? I put all this information together, streamline all these ideas, put them into a presentation, and present it to the executives. And I give my recommendations of, what I thought this means, and, some possible directions we could move forward. And after every meeting, I noticed a common theme. The executives would smile, everything went great. They thank me for getting this done. They've given the orders of what they think we should do as a team next. And everyone's got their marching orders, and they're going to take action. And then they take the presentation and they throw it in the recycle bin. And there's nothing wrong with that, okay? For them, it's time to move on to the next problem, okay? That's just what executives do. They have hundreds of decisions to make every day. That's their job, is to make decisions. Don't let them tell you otherwise. That's what they're there for. So that decision's done. More decisions to make. Good job. They're off. But for me, when you put that amount of work into something for an audience of just a few people, a little part of you dies when you see it go right in the recycle bin. If you're going to put that kind of work into something, you just want it to serve more people, okay? It's like setting up this massive banquet for just two people. You've got an orchestra, you've got Crystal, you've got all this exotic food, and then two people come down, take a spoon of caviar, eat it, and then they go, "That's delicious, I'm full," and they leave. And then you're just, okay, let's throw everything away, they're done. There's something just kind of inherently wasteful about that whole process. So that's why I took something I enjoy, board games. And I noticed that fans have similar problems as executives, right? They want to learn rules and how to play as quickly as possible so they can get on to playing them. And basically, that's why I started Harsh Rules. I wanted to put a lot of work into something that's going to serve a lot of people. And instead of making just two people happy, we're hopefully going to make a lot more people happy and make that work go farther. So next question, and I get asked this all the time. What is that opening music? That's so cool. So let me give you a little background. So when I was designing the channel from the get-go, I knew I wanted to do war games primarily. A lot of the tutorials on the channel are for World War II, which is an area of interest for me. And I was looking for a theme, some music that would, work for that subject matter. So whenever you think about that stereotypically, right, you're thinking about, 1979, Apocalypse Now, Ride of the Valkyries. That song, that music, is synonymous with war movies. Ride of the Valkyries was actually first performed in 1870, so it predates that movie by quite a stretch. But this channel is about war games, and Ride would probably be seen as just a little too cliched. So I wanted another piece of music, and I wanted something from Wagner, if possible, because I really do love Wagner, and the other composer I really love is Tchaikovsky. So those were the two areas I was kind of thinking about. And another one of my favorite movies, is John Boorman's Excalibur in 1981. And if you've never seen it, if you're too young for it, if you've never seen it, in its tone and in its content, this movie is, basically the 80s version of Game of Thrones, right? It's Arthurian legend, but it's dark, it's gritty, it has brutal violence and graphic sex. It's also a deeply emotional film, especially at the ending, which brings me to the music. At the climax of the movie, when Percival throws Excalibur into the lake, there's, this piece of music that's just amazing. It's from an opera by Wagner called Götterdämmerung, and it translates roughly to, in my horrible German, it translates to Twilight of the Gods. And specifically, the piece is Siegfried's Funeral. And the version that plays in Excalibur is a softer version. It's very emotional and a softer play on it. The one we use for Harsh Rules is a lot strong. It's a lot more punchy than that version, but it's essentially the same song, and it's fantastic. I've been a fan of that piece of music for a long time, and when thinking about it again, I was like, Ride of the Valkyries, pretty cliched, but I do love this one, and I get excited whenever I hear it, and I'm hoping that the audience does too. So on the flip side, last few videos I've been using an outro piece that's also by Wagner. It's from the opera Lohengrin or Lohengrin. I'm not real great at pronunciation of some of these things, and it's a wedding procession for that piece of music. Wagner, we'll just get this out in the open, because I know someone's going to come flying out of the bushes in the comment section about his anti-Semitism and some other things that it's debatable. I mean, a long time ago, the Nazis loved Wagner, so that doesn't help the legacy of his music much. But let me just explain with this example. There's a lot of people that listen to Wagner and they don't even realize it. So like if you've been married, you've probably listened to Wagner because it's basically Here Comes the Bride is that tune is from the opera Lohengrin. So a piece I love in that though is it's much different. It's not that, but it's still romantic. It's still the music flies and I kind of a little personal joke for me is that I enjoy the fact that the Harsh Rules videos are all bookended by you start out with war and then you end with love at the end. That music, I really love it, but also it just kind of has that kind of inward joke to me on how it's set up in the videos. So next question, why don't you appear in your videos? Well, I am appearing in this one, but in my opinion, that's not really what the audience wants from this tutorial, right? I think, when I was studying other tutorial videos and trying to get an understanding of what my format would be as opposed to other people's, my opinion is that, when you're a game reviewer, your personality is kind of integral to the review. Your people are thinking, what does so-and-so think about this game? It's that reaction and their character that, whether or not you're as a consumer, your opinion aligns to them, but you're comparing and contrasting on what the reasons are for their liking or disliking it, right? So you can't have a good review without a good character. That's just the way it is. With tutorials, it's the audience is in a completely different mindset. They want you to stay on topic. They want you to be clear, and they want you to be quick. And yes, I am working on that last one because I am a little slow when I speak. So when you mix the two styles, you're creating kind of an irritating experience because you're trying to get something that serves a character, and at the same time you're trying to teach someone how to do something. So it's like you're going to the auto mechanic to get your car repaired, and then somebody's constantly like interrupting the whole thing to, well, you know what I did this weekend? You're like, dude, I just need to fix my car, okay? I don't care, just can you fix it? I need to go someplace. And that is kind of what I think the audience for these videos, I could be wrong, but that's the audience. I think they want to get in, they want to learn how to do this so they can get about their business. Perhaps at some point I'll do other videos or other series that are more conversational where I can let my own personal character come through, and it's less about what I call, bomb disposal videos, which sometimes they feel like where you're just being very clear and trying to be as calm as possible and give exactly what the person needs to know, like cut the red wire, then cut the yellow wire and go through. When I'm being sarcastic, that's what these videos sound or feel like to me, because it's like you don't want to interrupt anything. It's tense. We don't have time. You have to kind of move. Okay, so there's also a second reason why I don't appear in the videos, and that's from a production standpoint. So, kind of looking at my life, like I work at a large corporation. I work a lot of hours, and I do these videos in my spare time. So, basically every night you're doing a piece at a time of the video, and you're going through. And when you have to appear in a video, it's hard to maintain like visual continuity over a long period of time, especially on the 0 staff that I have working on these. It's just me. So, you've got to clean yourself up. You've got to try to look fresher, all those kinds of things, and be consistent from what you just shot before. Now, the alternate piece that I'm sure people are saying, well, you could just do it all at once, and then you've got to do this mega shoot like throughout the day and make sure you get it all in the takes that you have. And that is, with board games, there's always some little rule you didn't quite capture, or there's something that's not quite right about this or that. Even at the last minute, you're tweaking and changing things constantly. And it's not really conducive to trying to shoot inserts. So you're either going to shoot a video where you're talking to the audience and you have all these pieces of text flying up saying like, I screwed that up when I recorded it. This is what I meant. Or you can use the style which I've chosen, which is treat it like an animated show where, everything is happening on the screen and that's all controlled in its own environment. And my dialogue is all recorded in pieces. So I'll record, 5 pieces of dialogue one night and 3 pieces the next night. Now, if you're listening really carefully, you can hear like, why does his voice slightly change throughout the video? And why does it sound like at the beginning of the video he has a cold, and at the end of the video, it sounds fine and stuff like that? It's because the video is shot over like 2 weeks, the recording session. I have been exploring trying to record that all at once just as more consistent. But early on, you're just taking it a bit at a time and inching your way through the tutorial. So we'll work on that as time goes on, but I think just you have an understanding of like, the elements at your control. Like I can take any one of these videos. If YouTube was not such a pain, I could take any one of these videos and insert new dialogue. It's just like a cartoon or something else. Like all that stuff is done. And my voice can slip in and out of there fairly seamlessly versus trying to insert a video from the future, or like the lighting is different, the visuals, the clothing, my beards or lack of beard or whatever is a different length, all those weird kind of things going on. Like I can take a video I did last year and re-record dialogue and insert it into it, and it'll kind of flow. So from a production standpoint, ultimately I could do 2 perfect videos and try to capture everything and want to, or I can do 20 pretty good videos where you have you have some of these production issues, but most of it is you're going to make some compromises along the way. And I've chosen to make compromises on, myself. There's no reason for me to be in these videos to, for the value of what I add as a person compared to the value of the content. And in this particular type of series, my opinion is I don't matter. It's more the content that matters. So next question. So what is the most difficult game you've ever done? So definitely for me at this point, Liberty or Death, the American Insurrection was the biggest challenge. This is a GMT game. They are very challenging, as I've said before. They have complex mechanics, and the rulebooks can be brutal because they're kind of written in a reference style. With that said, with that out of the way, there are tutorials you haven't seen yet that were so tough I haven't been able to finish them. I'm going to, know if I should list them because someone might get upset, but the notorious one on my workbench that I keep trying and I just can't get it is Mistfall. Mistfall is just brutal to try. It's a simple, I'm starting to get the concept of how it works, but figuring out how to teach it is really challenging. I mean, I've sunk weeks into this game, and I have come close to getting angle on it. But after a while, on these things, it's like being in love. You've got to stay in love with this thing for a while, and after a while, I fall out of love with it. And I put it aside. I'm like, I'm just burned out. I can't think about Mistfall anymore. There's just some problems to teaching it that I can't quite figure out. I'll come back, we'll give this one some time to cool off. We'll try it again later. Maybe someday we'll get it out there. I've got a lot of material on it. It's just knuckling down and fighting it to the end. But there are also a bunch of other games that I have in various stages of completion that are similar. Like it's the race of being able to decode the book, represent it, and teach it, and being in love with the material the whole time. And there are times when you just fall out of love with stuff where you're just like, I've been working on this for weeks, and I can try to push it to the end and kind of release a crappy product, or I can give it a little distance in time and see if I can fall in love with it again later and finish it off. So if you're watching the channel, I mean, the biggest problem with having a channel on YouTube for this type of stuff is YouTube channels are really successful with daily content. And these are pretty intermittent. Like I'll do one week and you might not see part 2 for the next week. But if you see several weeks go by with no new content, it usually means one of two things. It means I've gotten sick, which happens. I get sinus infections during the winter in this place. And they'll crop up. They'll just lay me out. Number 2 is there's probably some unsuccessful love affair with a game where we just can't finish it, and I'll have to scrap it, or I'll put it aside and I'll start something else, and you'll see that gap in the time where it's like, it's been 3 weeks and not a new Harsh Rules video. What's going on? I'm struggling with something, and I've switched gears and I'm doing something else. So that, just if you don't see anything from me for a couple of weeks, it's usually because of that. Or I've got a ton of work in my real life job that pays the bills that's creeping over into my personal time, and I don't have enough time to work on this. So there'll always be new Harsh Rules videos. It's just they may be every week or other week or something like that. So that's pretty much it for now. Just wanted to answer a few questions that I get all the time. If you have more questions, you can put them in the comment section of this video. Maybe I'll make another video, and if you've got some burning questions, I can answer those too. Otherwise, I'm going to get back to work on the next tutorial. Thank you so much once again for 3,000 subscribers. That's fantastic. Really appreciate that, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks, guys.